Okay, we'd like to welcome everyone to our presentation. It's mostly an educational CD or DVD. The whole purpose of our preparing this is mostly just so the people who are interested on learning how to get into people's lives through literature evangelism, how to get before the people in a conversational way, and bringing them all the way to the interest and wanting of the product that you have. And so what I'm going to try to do, best possible, is present this in a very slow manner so that it could be very easy for anyone to study it out or even memorize it or even put it in your own words. To many of you, you might consider literature evangelism a dying breed. We might be or endangered species, but I think we've only just begun. And God has a lot that could still be done. And what the purpose of our presentation here is to show that even in the culture we are living today, there is still room to be outreaching and to touching lives. As a matter of fact, I've noticed that the more this world is agitated in its stresses, the more we are called to be out there. So this is the hour of our calling. And so it's one thing to have a calling, it's one thing to know your calling and how to do it. And we are dealing with a culture and a society that's quite different. I've been a literature evangelist since 1978, and I've been brought up with the programs that there has been during all those seasons. And I can right now tell you it's changed. You don't do things like we used to. Ford company does not advertise Model T Fords anymore. I kind of wish they did, but they don't. And we've been advertising the same product for 40 years in the same place. It is a very, very rare thing for any organization to do, though it hasn't lost its beauty. The Bible stories, Uncle Arthur's Bible stories, there has to be different ways now to use to reach the people where they're at right now. And it behooves us to be innovative and to be available. And so what you will hear today is probably the canvases, it's mostly the canvases that I've been evolving with in reaching the people that we deal with today, and still being viable out there as inviting people to the encouraging good news of Jesus coming. And so that is the purpose of our presentation today. As literature evangelists, a lot of people don't realize that the major important point in this ministry is that you set a goal. And when you set that goal, set it in a way that is not intimidating to you. The most intimidating thing to a person who is starting out especially is the uncomfortableness of wondering if they're going to make ends meet. And rightly so. Being a literature evangelist since 1978, I've tasted that, and I've also seen what it takes to come around it. And the thing that I would recommend for a person to do is to set your goals, but your goals should be set on your responsibility, never on the results. The more you look in the mirror, the more you're discontented. The more you look at what you should be doing, the happier you get, because by beholding you become changed. And the goal that I had set, that I had learned to be the greatest means of success, was to place my whole day in a formation of responsibility. I would determine that I'm going to present my materials or visit so many homes to present my materials every day. And come what may, what the results was, I would seek to leave that in God's hands. I never went there to sell. I went there as a missionary. I went there to care. I went there to meet the needs of the people and to converse with them. It took the pressure off of me of having to impose my needs on others. And by having that, people could smell it. They could tell. Even the neighbor's dog will know if you're a Christian. There's a difference. And so the more you are there for the care of others and leaving room for God to take care of your needs, the more harmonious you get with the source and the purpose of this ministry in the first place. I'm giving you this little talk just to give you a basis on what to present yourself on or how to develop your system. What I was hoping to do also a little bit as before we start this session that we'll have right now is to show you what does it take to be a literature evangelist in the year 2005 or more. Throughout all my years' experiences, there was a session after 7 years of canvassing where I had learned to triple my effectiveness in literature evangelism. As soon as that happened, God played a trick on me and put me into leadership. But I sure was happy to have learned how to succeed doing this work. And so I've noticed the thing that helped me the most was to set goals. Now, I had tried setting goals before, but every one of them triggered wrong motivation and triggered a real mess. So I had to learn, what does it take to really be able to be out there? What I did within the week, being I had a family, is I had set 4 days aside for holy use. And God asked me to be sanctified for holy use at least for the 4 days in public. And then the Friday, I would spend half of it cleaning up my accounts, closing up the business of the week, and then the other half of the day preparing for Sabbath. Now, on Saturday, of course, I was not a literature evangelist. I was actually just a church member, someone to just enjoy life, to be totally separated from my calling. And then, of course, Sunday, it was a family day, and we were just going to do whatever we wished, because we just wanted to burn energy and have fun instead of always carrying the burden on our shoulders. Many literature evangelists have asked me, how can a person be in this work for so many years and stay in it? Well, the greatest secret is to be able to separate and have a balanced life, even if you do have a calling. And so that's the way I did it. The major thing I did when it was time to go to work on Monday is that I would set myself aside for holy use. I took 4 vitamin C's. Okay, the first one was courage. I would take courage. I would take concentration, consecration, and commitment. And when I took these here every morning before I went out there, this is what gave me the nutrient vitamins I needed to visit the public. So that was one of the major things that helped me a lot. I would also, I designed the goal that would be to be in front of the people. And my whole goal was not I took away the arrangement for me to have goals on results. I fixed all my goals on responsibility. If I do my part, I'm going to have to just trust God to do his part. But I got to get out of his office. There's no more I'm going to make it. I'm just going to do what God asked me to do. And I'm going to have to go by faith. He'll do his part and do what he's supposed to do. And that's to maintain my livelihood or whatever it takes to keep the family alive. And so this is the way I developed my program. My first responsibility was to spend time with God. I enjoyed life a lot. There's a lot of fun things out there, but you can never have more fun than being right with God. And so when you in the morning seek him out with all your heart, you have gotten enough juice to do anything that day. So fill your heart with him and his presence and his Holy Spirit. The second was a nice reward also, which is another responsibility, and that was to eat breakfast. And that's fun too. I like breakfast. The next one was exercise. Now, I didn't do exercise necessarily, but I would go and advertise. I put pamphlets all over. The Van Pelt series, I put them in the bars, imagine. Because if anybody's there, is because they're having social life problems. They have no spouse. They have family problems. They have spousal problems. They have problems with children. And so I had amazing success. This was the best place to advertise those cards. And so, I went out everywhere. The bars, I went to the laundromats, the hairdressers, the barber shops. You get these apartment blocks where they have this mailbox outside now. Well, I tack on the little pockets with cards in there for Bible stories or great stories for kids. And right when people would go for their mail every night, they would have these cards. They'd say, oh, man, I wonder what that's about. And I'd take a card. So I would just do exercise for about an hour and a half, just flooding anywhere I could think of. Doctor's office, dentist office, anywhere. Then I would, from 10 o'clock in the morning till lunchtime, I show my product to at least 7 homes. Now, isn't that a nice number, 7? It's actually God ordained, right? And so I would have to show my product. That was my responsibility. Go and show my product. Go show to people what I'm doing, at least 7 before lunch. And then lunch was another responsibility. Yahoo, that was fun. Just almost fun as breakfast. And then, of course, then I would do another 8 till the dinner time. After that, inevitably, when I started doing this, I never went there to sell. I only went there to practice. I went there to practice what I'm showing people. I went there to practice to be sociable. I went there to practice to meet people. I went there to take care of their concerns. I was there as a missionary. I wasn't there as a salesman. If I sold anything, that would have to be God's problem. But what I was doing there is actually just visiting the people and showing how much I've got something exciting for them to see. And so the more I practiced this, within no time, I got eloquent at it. And the people were responding well. And the people liked what I was saying. And the people wanted what I had. And within no time, I tripled the amount of success I had. I did not eat dinners. And so I went to this suspended track, and I would run about 2 miles just to get the tension out of my brain and my the stress that I had in me. And it brought the blood down to my arms and legs instead. And then I jumped in a sauna, and I would be in there 3 times, hot and cold, hot and cold. And that was my prayer room. I prayed for the people I seen that day, for those who bought, for those who were interested, for me to come back, and for the cards that I was yet to see that evening. And then in the evening, I was going there to sell. I mean, I had practiced my tune. I knew my song. I knew exactly what I was dealing with. I had dealt with all sorts of objections, all sorts of rejections, all sorts of acceptance, all sorts of means to keep them comfortable by being there. And so when I visited that house, and those houses that were semi-interested or told me to go see their husband or their mother or the cards, I was really excited because I really got down pat what I'm doing and why I'm there. Inevitably, I would sell 2/3 of what I did after dinner every day. I tripled my success just from keeping this recipe in my life. And then when I went home, I didn't have to stress what tomorrow would bring, because all tomorrow was bringing was my responsibility. The 7 homes, the 8 homes, and then the interest in the evening. Now, many might be listening to this and say, boy, do I have to do that many homes? Well, you don't. You might say, I can handle 3 before lunch. I can handle 5 after. You'll know what your limitations are. I knew how to knock on doors and visit people before I learned this. And so so it won't be discouraging to you. Just set a goal, reach it, make it climb. Make it only built on your responsibility, and make that climb until you have it where you can do more than 3 or 4, and build it up. And God will honor even 2 homes. It's not the amount; it's the commitment and the determination to learn. See, so this is what really brings success: is to go in front of the people, discharge yourself from the stresses, trust what God is doing with this situation. He's going to use anything. And if you give him your all, he will bless these people. And they're actually waiting for you. So we wish you the best as God's providence will guide in your life. Thank you. And what we were going to do now is to now present or do these canvases over again, helping everyone to see what I have found to be very, very simplistic in reaching people where they're at today. Light is wonderful, especially when people are in the dark. But when you take a light and you flash it in their eyes, a spotlight in their eyes, you blind them more than if you would have left it off. To come on too strong with what you know or what God has blessed you with is intimidating to people, even if they need it. It's a little bit like when I was young and I went fishing. I thought for a while I should put an elephant at the end of the hook. Surely the first fish who would see it would say, I found enough protein for 10 years. But somehow, what I perceive he would love to have or should need was not at all what he perceived he wanted. He found a lot more use of a hairless worm. I don't know why. There's a little something wrong with his thinking. But if I didn't put at the end of that hook what he likes instead of what I thought he likes or should need, it just wouldn't work for him. So it's to know what to put out there to really appeal to the people, reach people where they're at, not where you are, is what I'm trying to get to. Now, what we're going to do is go through some of these canvases and presentations, dealing with today's society, not the Model T Ford society, the actual, what's new car? The actual society we live in today that is such a different. What I have found with people today is that America's been marketed to death in the past century. And when we first started doing this work, people were so intrigued, anybody visiting them. Now they're intrigued that you're visiting them all right, but not because they want you there. And so you have to have something that you're doing that is very attractive or intriguing. And the very first things people look at is what they have decided in their mind you're about, because they are on their guard to a certain degree, some of them are. And so you have to look pleasant, you have to look affirmative, you have to just go with confidence, you have to be happy. They have enough trouble than to see somebody else frowning at their door. And so you have to display yourself as pleasant to be with. The more you keep people in their comfort zone, the more comfortable they'll be, and the more apt they are to respond to you. People only buy from friends. They don't buy from somebody who won an argument on them. You have to win their hearts. You have to show that you care. You're really there because you care. You're not there because you're trying to. If you really wanted a job, you go somewhere and get one, right? And so you're there because you're really caring. And so let the people see that, and so on. And so the approaches that I'm using is actually way off the norm that we have been taught in the past 4 or 5 decades. You will notice that the approach I have is dealing with today's issues, touching people's lives as what they're tasting today, and helping them to deal with it. We're going to go through the canvases now. Canvas number 1 is going to be on how, when you're just visiting homes, and secular-minded people, and developing within this conversation an intrigueness that you get into conversation with them, and presenting some of the products we have. And so here we go. Okay, what I'm going to try and do in this presentation here is to do them in English, and later on also in Spanish, and possibly also in French for those who might be needing it. And that way it could be used for any areas in North America. And so I will start with my presentation that I mostly do when I go to a home, door to door, with no interest, alerted or developed interest in the past. And so therefore it's just cold canvassing. And so when I come up to people's home, I, as most of the literature evangelists that come with me have noticed, I walk quite quickly to the house. I don't dally around. I make people sense that they're looking in the window. Somebody is coming with affirmativeness. Somebody's coming with urgency, and somebody really means it. And it puts within the people, the visual of the people looking in the window, that this man has something to say. And so when I come up to the homes, one of the things that I do is I say to the people, good day, ma'am. My name is Robert. I work in association with Home Health Education Service, and we're visiting all the parents in schools in the areas. If we could take a few minutes of your time. And most times when the people hear me say that, they'll say, well, what is it about? And or they'll say, oh, come on in. And when they say it at the door, what is it about? I say, most people know us. We often been known in the past for doing the seminars or courses with hospitals and schools, like how to stop smoking in the past. What we've been trying to do, when I show them this here, it's only a minor point to get into their lives. When I have done this, I show it all to the people, and I say to them, of what you see here, what would you think, do you think this would be good for people to know today? And the people automatically say, oh yes, this would be really good. I say, of what you see here, what would be practical in your home? Now, I don't say which one are you wanting to buy or which one do you want. I just say which one would be practical in your home. From that question, an unarmed question, they respond with, "Oh boy, I really like those." And then I will elaborate what it would take to get them. And so that is the canvas on the health. Often what I also do when I come up with this sheet showing the negative stats that are happening in the medical problems of today, I say to them, as I go through the Vioxx, then I go to 1 out of 13 are misdiagnosed, 1 out of 9 have wrong medications, and 1 out of 11 come out with a greater infection than when they went into the hospital. And what we have done is come out with, let me see if I could find it here. The method we've been dealing with health is actually from out of this world with the alternative medicines. In the good book of wisdom, it says in Revelations 2 that I've given you the fruit for your food and the leaves for the healing of the nations. And Ezekiel in the Old Testament actually elaborates on it too. I've given you fruit for your meat and also the leaves for your medicine. And we have yet to find one negative statistics using this method in comparison to the one that we're having in our society today. And the reason we have found we haven't had any problem is because the author who designed this method of healing never lost a patient. Can you imagine finding a doctor who never lost one? Actually, even when they died, he just said the word and they were up again. And so how would you like that? And so we prepared a book actually on his life, and most people have really enjoyed it, which is called The Desire of the Ages. So it's just to show you that you have to always feel. I was with Jim Webb this morning, and he tried to show me how to operate a plane on a simulator. And, you know, there's always a pivotal point to keep it the horizon properly. And you can go too much this way and then too much that way and too much this way. And you know, and that's with this work is his name, when you're dealing with hearts and decisions. By God's grace, you just need to keep on feeling it and tweak it here, change it here, fix it here, keep it this, and keep it pretty well central and keep her going. And you have yourself constantly open. There are 3 things that I really focus on when I'm visiting people. Now, you heard the basic points of these presentations, but the things that you really are mostly focused on, the first one, keeping them in their comfort zone. Have an attitude that they don't feel you're coming on. Be a little nonchalant. Don't make it feel like it's a big deal if they say no. Just play it cool. So keep them in their comfort zone. Keep them intrigued. Everything I say has got to make them want a little more, want to know a little more, want to be curious for a little more. And then keep your focused on their environment. You have to sense what they're sensing. You got to think what they're thinking. You got to imagine what they're up against. And by having these sensitivities, it will open up to you conversational pieces that will really win their heart. Like it might be the lady's got full of dolls in the living room. Well, you might not have dolls, but you got to show that you're really impressed with what she's got. You have to get involved. She might have children pictures, grandchildren pictures. She, whatever. Or you'll look at the books, you might see all religious books around. So you have to, as much as I'm focused on keeping them intrigued, I am focused on absorbing their life so that I reach them at the rung of the ladder they're at, not where the rung I am at. And just build up on it. And so that's just a sensitivity. It's the pivotal sensitivity of communications, or social communications. So that's pretty well all I can think of, unless you can think of something else you might want. Or
that's good.
All right. Praise the Lord. Yes, okay. What we're going to try to do now is go through when I visit homes and I see a fish on their car or a Bible verse, or if I see something religious in their yard, or if I see it in their windows, you can pretty well smell if a person is a Christian home. And when I do that, I see that, I go, actually, quite often I go just directly spiritual. And what I would do is when I knock on their house, I'll say, how are you today? My name is Robert. I work in association with the Book and Bible House that have sponsored in the doctor's office for many years the blue books called the Bible Stories. Have you ever seen them before? And most inevitably the Christians say, oh, my, I was brought up on these. Oh, yeah, I remember these, and so on. And when they do that, I say, we're finding the parents who got this in the past didn't get them for the kids. It's actually mom and dad who want to read it. So what we did now is we prepared the same type of series for the mom and dad. And we've designed these actually in a series of 12 copies. This is the first 6, but this one here is called the Bible Reference Library. Now, these are not just the Bible stories. They are a reference library that helps adults go through the Bible just like we did for the children. The Bible stories have been written in a chronological order so that the parents could easily go next step, what happened next, what happened next. We decided to put this series in the same manner. It goes through the whole Bible in a chronological order, helping you to go through every aspect of the Bible from creation, the fall of man. It talks about the patriarchs, the prophets, their lives, how God dealt with them. And I used to wonder why on a hospital building you'll see a sword with 2 snakes wrapped around it with wings. That emblem for medical has actually been used for many years. But the first time it ever came out was actually Moses. Snakes were biting Israel. They were all getting sick and they were all dying. And God told Moses, put a brass snake on a stake and those who looked at it would be healed. And I used to wonder, why does the hospital have 2 snakes on their emblem when Moses was only told to put one on his? Well, one snake bit us, and from there God became disease in the Garden of Eden. And the other one became a snake for us so we could be healed. Now, both snakes were cursed of God. One for making us fall, and now he crawled on his tummy. And then the other one became a snake for us. And he was cursed for us for taking our place. Now, both are fighting for your life. One to make you ill and die and confused. One to make you well and live forever and to be enlightened. And so the whole battle between health and death, encouragement and discouragement is on the hospital building. The wings represent the angels who minister to us spiritually, or the angels who minister to us physically. Even the nurses, because you see on their lapel 2 little wings, and that represents their part of the ministry, the physical healing. Beautiful, beautiful books. David did not have a giant problem. It's the giant that had a David problem. It depends on whose side you're on. We are more than conquerors through Christ that strengthens us. Isn't it true? And the one I love is called The Desire of the Ages. This book here has been renowned as probably the best ever written on the life of Christ. It was written over 100 years ago by a lady who only had grade 3 education. It is still renowned, probably the very best one ever written. And it's the book that actually changed Johnny Cash. Somebody sent him this book when he was younger. And that's the day the man in black met the man in white, and he changed. Beautiful, beautiful unfolding. There's a lot of storms in life today, but there's still someone that can calm the storms. Sometimes it looks like we're going down for the last time, but he can save to the utmost anyone who turns to him. Do you know the highest place a person can climb is sinking beside the boat? Because that's when he's serious about holding on to somebody else to help him. And that's where God steps in. And beautiful, beautiful illustrations. Going through everything on the life of Jesus. He is the greatest shepherd we ever had. For the wayward sheep of our day, this is so wonderful to learn how he still has control. And do you know what the Passion of the Christ is? Well, not the movie. The real Passion of the Christ is you. What in the heavens is he supposed to do in the heavens without you? He couldn't take it. So he, with all his passion, came to take your place. And so that you would not have to suffer all this. Beautiful, beautiful story. The other one I loved is called The Triumph of God's Love. It shows how God is going to pull it off, how he's going to triumph over the mess today, just with his love. He hasn't lost control. And it starts right from 70 A.D. when Jerusalem was destroyed. It goes through the martyrs of Rome, the Waldensians, and the Alps of France and Spain, Talks about the Reformation with Martin Luther, Huss, Jerome, Zwingli, Wycliffe, Tyndale, Calvin. It talks about the men of Simon. It explains what God has done, even as He opened America up, and where even America fits in the picture is in here. But it also shows you what God is up to today. He invites everyone, and some people just can't get enough of what God is showing them, and some just don't want any of it. And the angel is sitting there so quietly, and he's writing down, him that chooses to be filthy, let him be filthy still. Him that chooses to be holy, let him be holy still. And when he's finished, he says, Jesus, you just go get your children. Everyone that wants to respond to you is ready. And he comes, and the controversy will be ended. The two snakes will have finished their battle. Only one will have won. And we are going home. And our eyes haven't seen, neither our ears heard what God has prepared for those who truly love him. I'm sure you see yourself in this picture. And sometimes people will say, well, I don't know. I say, well, how far from heaven do you think you are? And they'll say, well, I must be a long way. I say, no, you're only one decision away. All you need to do is give him your heart. Get off the dark and wide road that leads to destruction and step on that one little lighted path. And it's like you're already there. He'll make sure you make it from there on. You can be confident of this very thing, that he that has begun a good work in you, he'll accomplish it. And a beautiful, beautiful book. The other one is a question book called The Bible Readings for the Home. And this book will go through the whole Bible in just 2 months by question answers. These are all the questions people have asked their ministers and verses they shared with us on how to answer it right. And so it's all Bible answered so that the people could follow it very easy. And helping people to learn the Bible extremely quick in a very orderly way. Beautiful series. And so we just thought we'd show that to your home. And of course the Bible stories still hold their weight for children. Reading these through would only take about 1 year and 2 months if you don't miss a night. But after that, you name anything in the Old or New Testament, your children will be able to relate to you what it was about. It's good to reach it at their level of thinking, and that's why people really like these. Let's see. You think it would be good for homes to have devotionals like that today?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Of what you see, what would be practical in your home?
I like both of them.
Yeah. We have a special at the moment. Next, what we're going to do now is to approach homes, which sometimes I go to homes and health is not even an issue, or they're very indifferent to that. So then I have to reach them where they're at. And what I usually do, if they are grandparents or if they are just parents having children at home, I will go directly dealing with a canvas which is more directed towards children. And so what I will say is, good day, Nam. My name is Robert, and we're just visiting all the parents and schools in the area. If we take a few minutes of your time, I work in association with home health education. Oh, come on in. I say what we're doing is 2 projects recently. One is on the prevention of disease, and the other one is more focused to the children, not only so they won't have the obesity and diabetes problems we're hearing so much with the schoolings now, but how to avoid other health problems. And we've also, a lot of people have known us for years. We used to do the course with hospitals, how to stop smoking. And recently we're focusing on the children, not only so they won't smoke, but how to avoid the other pressures that they're facing when they get to school. And especially with mom and dad not there. They put this together recently. You might have seen it displayed in a doctor's office, which is called the Great Stories for Kids. Now, these are not just a storybook. They are professionally designed to protect children. They are designed for parents to influence their own children at night, teaching them how to handle an emergency if mom and dad are not home. You don't have to live in Louisiana to have tornadoes nowadays. There's disasters all over, and it's good to teach them what the steps to take. And it goes on with many things like decisions or the friends that are not the best to hang around with. It goes into children of the different cultures, single-parent homes, mixed families. For instance, in the back you will notice it says like latchkey kids living in a bad neighborhood, a step family, living with divorced parents, self-esteem, handling the peer pressure, fear of dark, fear of divorce, fear of dogs, getting along with your parents, disappointment, worry, teasing, stealing, smoking, sickness, pride, guilt, guns, hatred. It's to help them see how to be, what is important to do to be careful. You know, they're finding parents who tell them a story at night that is positive with love instead of television with violence all the time. What a difference in those children, just because of the attention, the hug, and conversing with their own parents and the books and the wisdom. They're more apt to tell their friends when they get older, I know what that leads to. My parents explained to me what that causes. Children do not remember when they're 18 the toys they had necessarily, but they don't forget the stories mom and dad took time to say. If you tell them a story that has weight in it, they're more apt to live up to what you have taught them. Here, have a look at that. And most people who remember us from the past, we're the ones who used to have the blue books in the doctor's office we have sponsored, which is the Bible stories. Have you ever seen them before? Yeah, I thought you did. The Bible stories have been renowned the best ever put together as a story set for children, covering the whole Bible thoroughly in a chronological order. What parents have loved of these is that they have a lot of children of different cultures, a lot of smiles, very clear, very attractive. It doesn't just give you 2 pages on creation. You go up to page 57, you're still covering the creation story. It goes on through in a way that's not just dry history. They designed these to teach the lessons of life, like what happens when we disobey. You know, we have a tendency to hide when we do something wrong. If something goes wrong, you never get ahead hiding it. The best thing is to face it head on and then go to a solution. It shows them somebody still loves them even if they did wrong. And then it re-elaborates it again, connecting it with us today. And so bringing it down to our own lives. And it goes on and on and on. And even the artists were told to be careful with these. Yeah, like you might remember the animals going into the ark, going 2 by 2. But you know, some went by 7, like the deer or the sheep or the cows. It's only the unclean animals went 2 by 2. The clean went by 7s. And so even the artists put the accuracy in here. We showed this to a little boy one time. He was only in grade 1, and we asked him, what do you see in this picture? Well, he looked at it, and he's studying out. He says, well, they're trying to get in. He says, yeah, they are. Do you see anything else? Well, boy, he kept on looking. What am I missing? And he says, I remember. They sinned. Yeah, that's right. You see anything else? Why, he was wondering, what in the heavens do we see he doesn't see? So with a frown, he looked at every inch of this picture, trying to find who else he's missing. Then he says, I know. They missed the boat. Well, you know, we made these here so your children will not miss the boat. Not only mom and dad need to be in heaven, but the children too. And you know, they will never learn it with a television box. If they don't get it from mom and dad, they won't have it at all. And it's very important to have it, isn't it? And the other thing that we have done is for preschool. Depending on the age of the children, I will go into the preschool level. And I will say most people have known us also. We have these, which is the My Bible Friends, have won the Edison Award as the best for preschool. The reason people have really appreciated these is because of the artwork. They are very colorful, full-page pictures. And what is written on the pages is acted out on the faces in a theatrical way. So when mom is reading, the children are looking at the picture and following just from the expressions on the faces. And children, when they're really young, they don't want a whole bunch of words. You have to turn more often. And so these here are designed so that it takes a lot of pages to go through the one story, so you keep the child's attention. Baby Moses, of course. And then you go into the baby Jesus story. I was showing this to a home, and the little boy got home from school. He looked at that and he says, Mom, how come that man's dressed up like a butterfly? And I wonder, what is he talking about? I said, that's not a butterfly. He says, well, look, that's a butterfly. I said, no. And his mom looked at me and she says, boy, did we ever lose a lot of ground. I say, well, they don't learn it anymore. They're not going to learn it at school. They're not going to learn it on television. If they don't get it from mom and dad, they don't get it at all. And so it's important for them to learn it from mom and dad, isn't it? These are the only ones you'll find showing Jesus growing up as a little boy for the preschool. You know, and actually, he was taught at home. He was a homeschool boy. Probably one of the greatest reasons he was so successful. Beautiful, colorful, very attractive. Win the heart of your children. The very first stories they would get in the church if mom and dad would bring them. And if they can't bring them all the time, you can still keep it in their hearts. And see, if you have a look at that, and so on. And of course, the Arthur Maxwell series has also been known for the series we used to have, these are more stories what mom and dad had to go through when they were young. And they're actually true stories. They're letters we received from different parents when they were kids, what happened to them. So every one of these stories, as you could tell, are aged a little bit, showing them what mom and dad had to live like and what they had to go through. Teaching you all sorts of lessons in the life. And beautiful. Every page always has a picture. You always have the attention of the child. Like, for instance, this little girl. She was very pretty. Everybody loved her, even the teacher. She was so kind, helpful, always trying to think of others. But if mom asked to help, oh boy, what a mess. One day mom asked her, can you prepare the table? Someone's going to eat supper with us. Why me? It's always me. I hate the dishes. You never ask no one else. And mom didn't say nothing. And so when she finished, mom says, can you go get the visitor in the living room? Oh boy, she didn't know somebody was sitting there all that time on the other side. She went to see who it was, and it was her favorite teacher, silently listening to all the noise she made in the kitchen. Oh, the teacher was so wise. She didn't come down on the poor girl. She just said, I'm so surprised you're not the same at home as in school. And that was enough. Caroline burst out crying and says, I'm so sorry, Caroline. I'll never be so naughty again. And truly it happened. She learned to love and respect mom as much as she did the teacher. And so beautiful stories bringing on the values and the manners that children should learn. You know, children don't learn these disciplines and the mannerism anymore. And so we've designed these for mom and dad to still put it in the children. Do you think something like this would be good for homes today, for children to learn?
Yes.
Of what you see there, what do you think would be practical in your home?
I kind of like everything.
You sound like a real mom. Well, these are not in encyclopedias. You know, encyclopedias run thousands of dollars. You know something? I've studied the past couple of weeks, and all that you're seeing there, all of these series of books, they are probably about the price of 2 hours in the hospital. Probably even less than that, actually. One guy, I heard he went to emergency the other day, and it cost him $1,100. So all of this is less than an hour in the hospital. And we arrange it for parents to get them a little bit at a time or a month or right off the bat if they want to, what card or a Visa card. So it all depends which is convenient to you. See. And so you just let me know, do you want to use card or do you prefer on a check, or what would be better for you?
Over a few months.
All right, we'll work it out. Okay, that is the canvas more directly towards the children. Canvas number 1 is going to be on how, when you're just visiting homes, and secular-minded people, and developing within this conversation an intrigueness that you get into conversation with them, and presenting some of the products we have. And so here we go. Good day, ma'am. My name is Robert. I work in association with Home Health Education Service, and actually we're visiting all the parents and schools in the areas here. Would you have a few minutes? Thank you. And the purpose why we've been visiting, we work actually on 2 projects. One is on the prevention of disease, and the other one on the preventing of delinquency. Most people know us. We're the ones who for years have taught with different hospitals and schools the different courses. One of them for adults is we're well known for is this one called How to Stop Smoking Without Gaining Weight. Now, the reason people really like this is that for many years we helped a lot of people learn how to quit smoking. But recently we're focusing on another project, which is not just so that people next generation won't smoke, but how to avoid the other health problems. You know, even children today are getting diabetes and obesity problems at a very young age. And North Americans' health departments have had bad statistics recently. Some of them, as you might see here, you'll find that 75% of Americans over 50 are now pharmaceutical drug addicts. Can you imagine 75% of us, any of us who's over 50, is now having these problems? Vioxx alone are responsible up to 139,000 heart attacks, strokes, and deaths. And of course, we're seeing some of the cases being settled right now, which are being very serious. And you're looking at a lot of other statistics. Here's one that they said 1 out of 13 have been misdiagnosed. 1 out of 9 have received wrong medications. And 1 out of 11, by the time they leave hospital, get a greater infection than when they went in. And there's a lot of concern with these statistics. And a lot of people are wondering, what can I do so none of these get me? And you know, they're finding out that you never see a rabbit sitting in a doctor's office waiting his turn. You know, if he doesn't feel good, he knows what to bite. He doesn't go and lay there. You know, it's mostly Americans who are a hair away from death. And so what we designed is a program that has really helped people come around, and that they're finding a lot of success, called the Medical Plants. Now, this is not a doctor book that just tells you which is the best pills or the best doctor. What it does in a simple language, it helps people learn how to get their health strong again without medication. What are the most simple things that help the body get strong again? Dealing with the herbs, plants, or foods. For instance, if somebody has an ulcer in the stomach, a cabbage juice for 5 days, amazing how it helps ulcers clear up. And also the other one is the aloe vera juice, also very, very good to drink, helping the stomach to really heal itself. And it goes on to many other things for the skin, or let's say if a person has a headache, if you put your feet in hot water, as hot as you can handle for 5 minutes, then ice cube cold for 30 seconds takes away headache. And there's no Tylenol. We also found very successful with this if somebody has a cold or congestion, even children. And by doing this treatment, it actually takes away the congestion or the cold 10 times faster. Now, when it comes to kids, don't cook them. Just as hot as they can handle, please. But it also deals with many other things, with infections or back pain, and also other things with children. One of them that I've really liked, if a child has a fever, one of the fastest way to break a fever is carrot juice. Carrot juice will break a fever within 5 minutes. Also very good for the eyes. It's good to prevent cancer, all many other things. And I was visiting this one lady who had a little girl, and she hadn't eaten for 3 days. On the weekend, they had eaten chicken, but it was full of worms. And the little girl got so sick, she couldn't even keep water down. The mother was so stressed out. I asked her, what's going on? Well, she told me the story. But she says, you know, the doctor gave us pills and said she'll probably be better within the 20 days. I said, man, she'll be dead within 20 days. And the mother says, could you help me? I said, I'll be right back. So I left her house. I went to a health food store, and I got her a full glass of fresh carrot juice. And it was wild oats, by the way. And they squeezed the carrots right in front of me. And I went right back to that house and gave it to the little girl. And within 3 minutes, it broke the fever. And the mother says, wow, the doctor told me 20 days. 3 minutes is so much better. Like I said, you'd never see rabbits sitting in a doctor's office waiting his turn. And so this just shows you the simple things for the ears, for the eyes, nose, throat. If children after Halloween have a tendency to lose their concentration and attention, and even their memory. Another thing is their immune system just drops like a rocket, and they catch everything the children, other kids in school have after the Halloween. The reason is the high sweets and sugar. And so, for instance, 1 can of pop is known to have up to 16 teaspoons of sugar. It would take you'd have to suck 8 sugar canes 7 feet tall just for 1 can of pop. Can you imagine sucking 8 sugar canes to the ground? Can you imagine 2 cans? Can you imagine the big bottles the kids are sucking down on a weekend? Oh boy, it's not good. That not be good is what I usually say. And you see here a lot of, like for, if somebody has a lot of tension or depression, preparing a tea with oats reduces the depression. There's many other plants good for the brain. And it also talks about things like for the mouth, if somebody has an infection. Or here you have with the throat for an infection. What are the best plants to clear the throat? Talks about the heart, like if somebody has the high blood pressure. Preparing a tea with the garlic cloves reduces the blood pressure. It also reduces all your friends. Nobody wants to come over no more. But they're probably the reason for the blood pressure anyway. So anyways, the problem leaves, friends and all. I told another little lady the other day, you're going to be healthy and lonely for a long, long time. I guess that's the side effects of using healthy ways, right? It talks about arteries, intestinal problems, digestive problems. You have here, for instance, with the lungs, pneumonia, emphysema, asthma. One of the best plants that helps to clear up the mucus with asthma is called mullein. Preparing a tea with the leaves from the mullein dries up the mucus. Really, really helps to clear. Even when you catch a cold, you know after 7 o'clock at night, your lungs refill again and you start coughing all night. Well, if you make a tea with this, it helps to reduce that mucus, and then you don't have to sleep on the couch after all. You could still stay in bed. And so just beautifully written. Stomach problems, intestinal problems, digestive problems. What are the best ways to get your health again? Most health problems could be treated much more natural. And many medications though they might assist or calm a problem down, they don't necessarily get rid of the problem. They sure don't change people's habits that constantly bring the problem on. The best thing is to get healthy. You know, if you take care of your health, it will be your best doctor. If you don't take care of your health, it'll work against you for sure. And what we've also done recently that people really are excited about is we design also another material which goes hand in glove with the plants, is the ones on the food. Now this food series is to help people learn reform. It educates them on every aspect. Volume 1, for instance, will give you a big emphasis on the science of food. What does food do to you to get your health strong again? And which food did you use that caused you to be ill? It's one thing to know what is good. It's also important to know what is bad. And it also, Volume 1 will show you different organs of your body, the best foods for cancer, the best foods for your skin, the best foods for your body. And then what I've really enjoyed is that they didn't stop there. They also put in here the best recipes to reverse the cancer, the skin, the blood, whatever. It's to help people. Once you've learned which food does to you, if you prepare these recipes, you could put a lot of weight behind this. I know this thing's working for me because I've learned how it works for me. And so that's why people have really liked these. What people love of these is not only how easy and to read they are. They're very colorful, very expressive, and people can easily see how encouraging this material would be. And so that's why we've designed these here. What we've also done with these, we've prepared a little book called The Kids in the Kitchen, and that little book is for the children. Teach them young so they won't have the health problems this generation had to put up with. And so it teaches the 8 laws of health and teaches them to cook healthy foods. And so that's what we've designed for the health. And what we're also, the program we built here with this material was designed, was a design from out of this world. We took it from the good book of wisdom. In the Revelations 2, it says that the foods, I've given you foods for your food, I've given you fruit for your food, and the leaves for the healing of the nation. And Ezekiel, it says the same thing, saying that I've given you fruit for your meat, and the leaves for your medicine. And so the reason we have no negative statistics using this method of gaining your health is because the author of this system never lost a patient once. How would you like to meet a doctor who never lost a patient? Actually, even when they died, he said the word never up again. We actually prepared a book on his life. It's called The Desire of the Ages. The book on the life of Jesus, called The Desire of the Ages, has been known the best book ever written on the life of Jesus. And it's actually been written over 100 years ago by a lady who only had grade 3 education. It is still renowned the best book ever on the life of Christ. And actually, it's the book that changed Johnny Cash. Somebody gave him this book, and that's the day the man in black met the man in white, and he changed. It also teaches beautiful. You know, there's a lot of storms in life today, but there's still someone that can calm the storms. And sometimes it looks like you're going down for the last time, but he can save to the utmost anyone who turns to him. And it's beautiful, showing you that we still have a shepherd. If there's one thing sheep need, it's a shepherd. And it's good to have somebody still at the elm. Beautiful, beautiful book. It also even goes through what we call the Passion of the Christ. Do you know what the Passion of the Christ is? Well, it's you. What in the heavens is he supposed to do in the heavens without you? He couldn't take it. So he came with all his passion to take your place. Isn't it good that somebody cares? Beautiful, beautiful book. When you read this book, it'll melt any heart and it'll heal almost any disease. Another one that I really fall in love with, it's called The Triumph of God's Love. Now this is a beautiful book designed to show you what happened after the apostles, showing you every aspect from 70 AD when Jerusalem was destroyed, the martyrs of Rome, the Waldensians in the Alps of France and Spain. It shows you what happened with the Reformation with Martin Luther, Huss, Jerome, Zwingli, Wycliffe. Beautiful, beautiful reading book, taking you even on to today where America fits in the picture. And it also shows you a section here on how God still has control. It's nice that somebody does, isn't it? And it's, you know, he invites everyone. Some people just love to hear what God's up to. Some people just can't stomach it. But you know, there's an angel that sits there very quietly, and all he does is write. Do you know what he's writing? Well, him that is chooses to be filthy, let him be filthy still. Him that chooses to be righteous, let him be righteous still. And when he's finished, he says, Jesus, all those who responded to your love, they're waiting. There's no more. You just as well go get what you got. And Jesus decides to come. And the controversy will be ended. Beautiful book, shows you how God has already ordained and beautified what he has prepared for us. Our eyes haven't seen, neither our ears heard. Not only will we have perfect health, but perfect peace also. I'm sure you see yourself in that picture, don't you? And sometimes people tell me, oh my, I don't think so. Or I say, how far from heaven do you think you are? And they say, oh, it must be a long ways off. I say, no, you're just one decision away. Just step on the little lighted path. Forget the broad road of darkness that's going the wrong way. And just put your feet on that path. It's like you're already there. He says, I'll take you just as you are. And would you like to do that now? Beautiful, beautiful book. The other book is a question book, 300 topics, 4,000 questions answered. This book alone is probably the fastest way to learn the Bible. It will teach you the whole Bible in just 2 weeks. Question by question answer. The most organized way to learn the Bible quickly, and the most simple way to grasp what it's trying to teach. Easy to help people learn how to present it after also. Beautiful reading material for adults. Do you think something like this would be good for people to know today, dealing with the health or also this other material and devotions? Of what you see here, what would be practical in your home?
Bible reference library.
Yes, a lot of people love that. I've had people, when they put their nose in there, they were crying from all the encouragement they were getting on one page, and they couldn't wipe their eyes fast enough to keep on reading because it was so much encouragement to them. Yeah, it's a very nice material. And so that's great. We'll work that out for you. So as you might have noticed, I have gone from in a secular home, presenting to them something that they might not even smoke. But on that minor point wasn't interesting enough to keep them interested on the other aspects. Getting them involved on today's issues with health. Getting them involved with simple things that will help to reverse this. Reversing it into a spiritual aspect. And presenting it as an unoffensive way. Not coming down with religion, but still putting it there. Putting it in front of them. And so it has it brings on results. Sometimes you might not be able to go that far with the thing. You'll see that it's obvious that people are just gonna say, get out of here. But you can smell that. And but a lot of homes are more spiritual than you think, or want to know it more than you think. So it's not bad to go ahead assuming that they'll like it. So that was the approach for health or reaching a secular mentality.
Now, if you had a home that was obviously into New Age, you see those things, how might you modify that?
They don't necessarily come down on Christianity. If you're using the holistic natural remedies, they start seeing the practical, logical points you brought out. And they actually find that, hey, this is the first time they see it fit logically with a Christian value, with the Christian perception of it. They're not against Christ. They just think they got more going than that. And so it is only if you don't make an issue of it, they won't make an issue of it either. But they'll still see that you got something lots to offer there. So you just have to keep it going without making it like it's you and us, or you or us. You just use it as part of it. If you meet New Age people, they often elaborate that Jesus was a very good man and he did really what was right. Now, but he's not the only thing they got going. So you just make it fit in as if that's all you're doing too, but let it grow its own seed. That's how I usually do it. They are impressed that we are dealing with a holistic approach, even if it isn't. Even if we're not part of their movement. And so it's a good one. The segment I'm going to add right now is a little segment because, like I had mentioned at the beginning, or a little while back, I might have heard it on another film that we did, is it's one thing to have a whole bunch of things to say, but it's one thing to be awakened to see the people's needs. I'm just as busy studying people's needs as I am studying what to say. And I keep myself all the way through the canvas that way. If I see a need right away. And so what I really like of our products is that we have something for preschool. We have something for 3 years of age. We have something for 7 years of age. We have something for all ages. The adults. The one thing that I have not yet come out with is what they call the neutral age, which is a teenage. They are not children anymore, but they're still treated like children. And they're not adults yet, but they're not treated like adults, even if they perceive themselves to be. So it's a dangerous age for teenagers, very sensitive. And so the reason I carried the next book is for that very purpose, to show the parents who are frustrated with this that we even have something to cover when they are hurting with the teen years. And so what we do is I show people the great stories for kids. I say these are our preteen, and we're finding that a lot of parents wonder what to do when they get to the teen years, when they're fighting for independence. What would be the best thing to do so they won't follow the wrong crowd in the decisions they're making? At the age when they are the most sensitive, and they're making the most decisive decisions of their lives, that they're going to have to live with the consequences. And yet they're all thumbs when they're doing it, or real long legs, a lot longer than the rest of the body. And so they need encouragement, they need room to grow, but they also need guidance. And so what we did is we prepared a beautiful book for the teenagers called We Only Just Begun. Now this isn't just it's not a love story or anything. It's actually an 8-week type course helping teenagers learn every aspect of relationships. It deals with the importance of their self-esteem, the decisions they have to make, their values. It covers how to prepare for their career and how to be careful with the decisions in the dating and in their perception of the opposite sex. For instance, we were visiting one home, and this one lady, a little girl, she says, my daughter is 16 and madly in love. She says, I'm more mad than in love. It was our oldest girl, and the little boy can make a lot nicer eyes than the mom could, and the little girl wouldn't even listen to mom no more. And I asked the mother, I says, do you think she's really in love, or could it just be puppy love? Boy, she says, I don't know. Well, I says, here's a test that we put in here that will show you if your daughter is actually really matured into a full love. Now, I didn't know when I was talking this way to the mother that the daughter was just around the bend listening to us. And the little girl was listening, and she came out bouncing. She could not hold back no more. And says, hey, I want to try it. So she sat down and got her own paper, and I left her with the book. And as I continued talking to the mother, we were watching the little girl doing this test right in front of us. Halfway through, she started frowning, and we were wondering what was wrong. And she says, boy, I keep this up, I'm going to lose all my friends. And I found it kind of funny, because if her mom would have told her what this book has to say, she would have told Mom, get off my cage. But when it came from another source, professionally arranged, she started saying, boy, it's not only Mom and Dad thinks this way. I'm going to have to live with these consequences forever. And so, beautifully designed, it helps them learn. Very intriguing book, helping them to see the dangers that they could be facing and how to be wise going through that period of life. And it's a beautiful gift. A lot of parents love to give it as a graduation gift or a schooling gift or even a birthday gift. But just to leave it around with them, it helps them. I have one of my friends that moved from Massachusetts up to northern Canada, in New Brunswick, and she was moving back home because her sister died of cancer. And so now she was never been married, single girl. She was going back to take care of her elderly mother and also take care of her 16-year-old niece. Can you imagine never having raised kids, and now you have a teenager right smack? Well, the first thing she told this teenager is, I know you have a boyfriend and I know you want to get around, so I'm not going to drive you guys everywhere. I want you to study this little book to get your car license so that you could just use my car. Well, you know, she comes from a town that the people were really, really poor. And the teenagers, there wasn't even one of them had a car yet. And here she was going to be the first ones to show up at school sometimes with a car. Oh boy, she told everybody, I got the best aunt in town. You wouldn't believe how nice things are going, you know. So she hurried up, both her and her boyfriend, and studied the license book so they can go for their beginners. And as they were doing that, she was practicing with the car with her aunt. And finally, she got her license. Now, what the aunt said is another thing. I'm not your mother. And you're going to have to grow up pretty quick, girl. And so what I've done is I gave you this book. And I want you to read this book and do all the tests in it. And when you finish doing this book, then you can have the keys. Now, this aunt was very unconventional. She didn't even know what she was doing. But you know something? That little girl, when she went through this book and did all the tests, both her and her boyfriend, before they even finished, they separated from each other because of how important this book was presenting, to be careful. And you know, that little girl, when she finished this whole book, her aunt could trust her with the keys. So much so that she never had a boyfriend until she finished her school. As a matter of fact, she was working as secretary for the government in Canada. And was still not married last I had heard of her. And so it's not that marriage is bad, but she learned how to be careful and be mature to make decisions. And it was only from the wisdom of this book, not her aunt. Her aunt didn't even know what she was doing, but somehow it worked, you see. So we've designed these to really help young adults. It's not something you hammer them on for the teenager, but leaving it on their table or wherever they are. They'll get curious, and when they read different parts and the different tests, they'll wonder what they score like, what they are like, and it will bring about the success, desired success that parents really love to have their teenagers have. Beautiful design for them to have something to. What I'm going to do now is to go into the, try to redo in the different languages to be able to accommodate the need to be able to repeat these things in another language or to address the people. First language, I guess I'll go to the Spanish since I have already done it so often. And let me just bring back my stacks here. The first one will be my canvas on the health. The same as I'll try to follow the same process. Buenas tardes, yo soy Roberto. Nosotros trabajando en una asociación con el Servicio a la Salud y visitando todas las familias aquí. ¿Es posible que habla por solo 5 minutos? Gracias. ¿Posible entrar? Muchas gracias. La razón de nosotros visitando los casas es no solo... tiene 2 proyectos ahorita por la familia. Uno está la prevención de las enfermedades, el otro por la gente que tiene niños, niñas, a la prevención de la delincuencia. Y mucha gente conozco es nosotros enseñando los cursos a los hospitales, como por ejemplo por los adultos cómo dejar de fumar. Y nosotros con mucho éxito ayudado a la gente a se quitar el cigarrillos. Me que los doctores conozco que la salud no venga solo si la gente no fuma o cuántos pastillas toman la gente. Me como la gente se tiene mejor cuidado a esta maquinaria. Mucha gente se tiene mejor cuidado de sus carros que de sus propios cuerpos. Y los doctores conozco que los diferentes problemas con los programas de la salud hoy. Como por ejemplo, a los hospitales dice que 70% de los americanos para los años 50 vivamos solo pastillas toda la vida. 70% necesita pastillas toda la vida después. Y dice que 139,000 personas tienen los problemas a la salud de los pastillas de Vioxx. Y tienen muchos otros problemas. El doctor recuerda que usted no mirando un conejico a los oficios del doctor esperando su tiempo. Si que los conejicos no tienen salud, él conozco que él es bueno, que él es natural. Y los doctores preparando los materiales naturales, ayudando a las familias. Como por ejemplo, tiene estos en los 2 idiomas. Mi ejemplo aquí es en inglés, pero yo tengo en español mismo. Esto es no un libro de los doctores que siempre dice que es la mejor pastilla o que es el mejor doctor. Las informaciones de solo la corazón natural. Te explico todas las enfermedades, que es la mejor manera se trata, no necesita pastillas. Solo para el valor de las diferentes plantas, hierbas o alimentos. Como por ejemplo, si que una persona tiene dolor, tiene úlceras a los estómagos, las jugos de repollo por 5 días se quita úlceras. Un otro es bueno es las jugos de sábila, más bueno para el estómago, la digestión y muchas otras cosas. Te explico cómo preparar las plantas, problema de la piel. Dice sí que una persona tiene dolor a la cabeza. Mete tus pies en agua caliente 5 minutos y agua fría 30 segundos. Se quita la fiebre más rápido. Y es bueno mismo se quita la gripa rápido por los niños, las adultas. Necesitan no cocinando los pies de los niños. Solo calor posible, sí. Por las infecciones, dolor a la espalda y mucho otras cosas. Como por ejemplo, si que los niños tienen calentura, la mejor manera se quita la fiebre es las jugos de zanahoria. Las jugos de zanahoria se quita la fiebre en solo 5 minutos. Y está bueno para la vista, es bueno para prevenir el cáncer y muchas otras cosas. El otro día yo visitamos a una señora, tiene niña, la niña no comida por 3 días, porque a la fin de la semana se comido el pollo y el pollo malo, mucha infección en el pollo. Después niña tiene mucha enfermedad, mucha fiebre. La mamá me dice, el doctor da la pastilla y dice que posible la pastilla es bueno en 20 días. Yo dice, muera en 20 días. Yo dice a mamá, ella me dice, por favor, ayúdame. Yo decidí, ok, yo regresando en 5 minutos. Yo vamos a la tienda natural, regresamos con las jugos de zanahoria fresca y da a la niña. Y él toma y en 3 minutos se quita la fiebre. Y mamá dice, hey, el doctor me dice 20 días. 3 minutos es mejor. Y la mayoría de las enfermedades se trata natural. Explicando por las oídos, los ojos, te explicando si los niños se pierden la memoria. Después Halloween, muchos niños se pierden las concentraciones. Tienen muchas enfermedades después. Es porque el dulces, como por ejemplo, una soda, tenemos 16 cucharas de azúcar. Necesita comer 8 cañas de azúcar, 7 pies altas, solo por una soda. Si es posible comer 8 cañas, es mismo solo una soda. Imagine 2 sodas, o 3, o 2 botellas grandotas a la fin de las semanas. Esto no es bueno. Te explico otras, como por ejemplo por la depresión. Preparar una té de avena ayudándose a quitar la depresión o el estrés. Mucho otro plan bueno por el cerebro. ¿Qué es las mejores plantas para la boca? O aquí está para la garganta, por diferentes infecciones. Te explico qué es las mejores plantas. Otras aquí es el corazón. Como por ejemplo, si que las abuelitas tienen alta presión, preparar una té de ajo si regresando a la alta presión. Mismo si regreso a todas las amigas o no gusta venir a la casa después. Me que es posible amigas que te causan presión, no sé. Muchas plantas, hierbas bueno por las arterias. Aquí está por las hemorragias, la varices. Aquí está por los pulmones, la gripa, las alergias. Como por ejemplo el asma. Una de las mejores plantas para el asma es el gordolobo. Preparar una té del gordolobo se limpia el asma, se quita el asma, las flamas. Y es bueno por la tos. Si tiene la tos, después 7 de la noche, la gente tiene mucha tos. Esto se quita todo el flamas porque la persona no tiene problema toda la noche. ¿Sí? Bueno por la gastritis, los problemas del estómago, la digestión, los intestinos. ¿Qué es la mejor manera se cura? No necesita pastillas, doctor, tal vez. La mayoría de las enfermedades se trata natural. La mayoría de las pastillas del doctor solo te calma, no se quita. No cambio la manera que la gente vive, qué cosas los problemas. Mire, por favor. Y nosotros tenemos otras, es por las comidas. No solo las hierbas, es el poder curativo de los alimentos. Estos no está solo en libros de los alimentos. Te explico, la primer tomo es todos los alimentos que es bueno por la salud. O que todos los alimentos que es malo por la salud. Número 2, esto es solo diferentes partes del cuerpo. ¿Qué es bueno por regresando el cáncer, los problemas de la diabetes y todo? ¿Qué es la comida que cambia la situación? Número 3 es las recetas. Las mejores recetas para el cáncer, las mejores recetas para la piel, las mejores recetas de diabetes y todo. Te explico cómo comer por regresar a la salud. Más bonitas, más fácil entiendo. Es bueno por la familia aprender rápido qué es bueno en la salud. Sí. Están otros aquí. Y nosotros tenemos otros proyectos posibles para la familia que es por diferentes otros tópicos. ¿Y usted piensa esto es bueno para la familia hoy? Sí. De estos, ¿qué te interesa en estos por ti? ¿Para los alimentos o para las hierbas? Los dos. Qué bien. Ok, no está enciclopedia con $1,000. Este es menos de la mitad de 1 hora a los oficios de los doctores. Ya está. Okay. Last statement I says it's going to cost you less than 1 hour at the hospital. It was a little hard to say. Okay. What I will do, I don't usually go and elaborate so much with the children on the Bible stories because I never really learned it too much. What I do, and I don't have it here to show, is after I showed that to the people, I would say, oh, nosotros tiene, I will say it in English first, we have also something for mom. We didn't want her to pout. And then I would take out the big family Bible in Spanish. And I would say, this is a beautiful family Bible. In it, it has all the pictures. Very easy to understand. Big writing so grandma could read it. A lot of artwork. It has the family tree, family records. It also has the whole life of Jesus on art. But at the end, it has a nice little course that you can learn the Bible in just 2 months. And we also carve your name in gold at the bottom. Here, have a look at the nice gift for moms. And so then I would elaborate and put the Bible reference library with it. And so I'm just explaining what I'm doing, but now I'm going to do it in Spanish. Okay? Nosotros tiene mismo un libros por las mamás, porque tiene un regalo por ella. Y estos libros bonitos es la Biblia grandotas. No está solo una Biblia familiar, tiene las letras más grandotas por fácil leer por las abuelitas. Tiene muchas ilustraciones, fácil, bonitas, todas las recojones de la familia. Después se tiene toda la vida de Jesús con ilustraciones. Y a los últimos se tiene un curso bíblico enseñando toda la Biblia en solo 2 meses. Mire, y si usted quiere, nosotros engravando tu nombre abajo por los nombres de la mamá como un regalo. Y nosotros tiene otras, la gente que gusta la Biblia solo es de 125. Que si la gente se gusta, nosotros tenemos un regalo, un especial. Nosotros preparando la Biblia como una historia por las adultas. Ahorita nosotros preparando una pasta rústica. Es toda la Biblia por las adultas como una historia. Y esta colección es $125. Que la gente que compra los libros de historias, nosotros te damos la Biblia solo por $45. Y si la gente compra los libros a la salud, y yo te doy la Biblia gratis. Okay? So, you probably didn't get it all, but what I'm saying to them is that we have this big, beautiful family Bible, and we also carve mom's name in gold at the bottom. And usually the Bible runs $125, but when you get it with this special set and a paperback, we give you the Bible for just the $45 instead of the $125. But I have a greater special than that. If you like the books on the health that I've just explained to you, and this set here, we'll give Grandma the Bible for free. And that's it. So I put this special on the one they can't hardly wait to get is the Family Bible. And when they're going to get it for free, well, write me up for everything. I love them too. And so then they will not read the Bible, though I'm not too happy with that. It's an ornament. But they sure will love to read stories, especially in their language, in Spanish. And so they end up reading the very things that I would love to encourage them to get into. Mm-hmm. And they get the health books to learn how to get their health back, and they know their way to heaven. I see. And so that's the canvas I usually do in Spanish. That's where I really had a high success. And so on. I haven't found here in Oregon yet a place where they will print the golden name of the mother on the big family Bible like I had in Colorado. But I'm still working at it. La dernière section va être sur les livres des enfants pour le français. Bonjour madame, on visite tous les parents et les écoles alentours, si on pourrait prendre un peu de votre temps. La raison qu'on visite, on travaille sur 2 projets pour la famille. Un sur la prévention de la santé, la prévention de les maladies. Et c'est nous autres qui enseignaient plusieurs années les cours avec les hôpitaux et les maisons. Les écoles, le cours commençait à cesser de fumer. Mais à ce moment ici, nous avons concentré plus sur les enfants. Ils trouvent que c'est plus facile de faire des beaux bébés aujourd'hui que les garder beaux. Et puis que beaucoup de parents se demandent qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour nos enfants tant qu'ils sont jeunes, pour que tant qu'ils vont arriver à un âge plus âgé, ils ne vont pas faire la décision de tomber dans des sortes d'ennuis et des problèmes. Et puis, ils ont préparé un projet qui ont trouvé grand succès à protéger la famille. Vous avez tout bien vu ça dans les salles de médecins avant. Ça s'appelle Maman, raconte-nous une histoire. Ils ont trouvé que les parents qui mettent les enfants en pyjama et leur content une histoire le soir qui est positif avec amour à la place de négatif avec la peur, il y a une grosse différence dans ces enfants-là. L'attention, la caresse, la direction de les parents à la place de la télévision et les amis faisait une grosse différence. Toutes ces histoires-là sont des histoires très simples, sont des histoires véritables. C'est des contes qu'on a reçus de différents enfants tant qu'ils avaient à traverser leur croissance. Comment est-ce qu'ils ont appris à faire des décisions. Et c'est des histoires très, très attrayantes pour les enfants. Ce que nous avons vient tout juste d'accomplir aussi, c'est une collection qui s'appelle La vie est une aventure. Et cette collection ici est une collection qui enseigne les enfants à les états, à les situations plus à propos. Comme pour l'instant, si qu'il y a un ennui comme une tempête, si les parents ne sont pas là, qu'est-ce qui est la meilleure manière que les enfants peuvent apprendre à se protéger? On voit toutes sortes d'ennuis aujourd'hui, des décisions, on voit les enfants qui ont des amis qui ne sont pas les meilleurs de se tenir avec. Et il y a des histoires avec les contes à différentes cultures. Nous avons des histoires ici de les parents, où il y a seulement un père ou une mère, où ils ont eu des divorces, ils ont des ennuis. Comme pour l'instant, ça l'enseigne ici, les enfants qui retournent à la maison sans parents à la maison. Ils ont des histoires où ils vivent dans un endroit plus dangereux. Vous avez les situations de leur bien-être. Ici, c'est quoi en faire s'ils ont peur de la noirceur, le divorce, s'ils ont des chiens, qui ont peur des chiens, comment s'entendre avec les parents, la désobéissance, le stress, la maladie, ceux qui ont la tendance de voler, ils ont des tendances de fierté, la culpabilité. Ce sont toutes des histoires très simples pour que les enfants apprennent comment agir, la sagesse des parents. Ils voient que si ce n'est pas les parents qui influencent leurs enfants, il y a quelqu'un qui va gagner leur cœur. Si ce n'est pas les parents, ça peut être la télévision, ça peut être les amis à l'école. Mais ils ont trouvé que le soir, les parents qui prennent leur temps et leur content une histoire qui est positive, à la place de négatif, il y a une grosse différence dans ces enfants-là, dans leur croissance. Pensez-vous que ça serait quelque chose de bon aujourd'hui que les enfants apprennent des choses de même? De qu'est-ce que vous voyez ici? Qu'est-ce qui serait intéressant à votre maison? Good evening. Here we are again, an hour with Uncle Arthur, excepting it's me instead. And what we're trying to do this time here is probably just some of the simple things I say in different scenarios that often just bring out, I guess you can call them anecdotes, that bring out people's interests outside of the canvas, which brings me back in. When I visit people, the thing that I notice the most is that you have to be meeting a need. It's not books that we're dealing with. It's lives, it's health, it's people's needs. And everything I do has to be appealing to something they see could be useful. And usually when I visit a home, I am just as active searching what is probably needing in that home as I am presenting what I'm doing. And often when I go to the door and if I see a bunch of cigarette butts outside, I know that they don't want to smoke in the house, but they still have the habit. And so to me, that's a cue. I know that I could, right now, I'm so excited. I can't hardly wait to show them what I have concerning this. Mm-hmm. And, or if I see a bunch of toys around, or I see a bunch of, as soon as I walk in, I hear this television with all this big bang going on for the kids. I know that I've got something that the mother will be really pleased that you can quiet down the night with something with wisdom instead of all this noise. And so what I do is I search as much as I present. And as I do present, right away, as soon as I find that thing, my niche, then I'll go with confidence. Can't hardly wait to tell you what I got that really meets this need. Now, what really helps people to come along is what you are doing if it's logical. You can't say things that are illogical. For years, as we dealt with witnessing, or what many denominations do for witnessing, they'll come up to people's face and say, "Are you saved?" You know, and the people are just intimidated. I better say yes or I'm doomed. But there's no real explanation what all that involves right off the first question. And some people say, "Oh, I don't care about the Katrina earthquake. My God will come and save me." And the people who are not religious look at that and say, "That lady's crazier than a bag of hammers." How could that be? You know, and then you get these bumper stickers that say, "God save me from your people." You know, because they seem to be so illogical at times. So what you're doing has to make sense. It has to be logical. The people have to see through it. This makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. So if I come up to a home, and there, as I visit the home, the people, I see the butts of cigarettes all outside. I'm really happy when I see these butts everywhere, because I know they need what I've come for. And so and the smoking is only a bouncing board for me. As you've already seen me do it on the canvas, were the people for many years who taught the course on how to quit smoking with hospitals and schools, especially for the adults. And then I take that and I bounce on to what we're doing now. But sometimes when they do have those butts outside, and I look at them when I mention this and I take this magazine out, they turn red and they look down and they're flush. I say, "Do you smoke?" And they said, they tell me yes, they admit it. I say, "Have you ever tried to quit smoking?" And then they say, "Oh, I wish I could," and whatever. Well, the first thing is, don't come down their throat with it. You just right away share something that will intrigue them about quitting smoking. And so those are some of the simple things that I share sometimes, depending on what scenario. It seems like anytime somebody gets into conversation with me, I pick one of these rabbits out of my hat, and it seems to manage the situation. And for many years, we taught the course how to quit smoking. "Do you smoke yourself?" "Yeah." I says, a lot of people, when they try and quit smoking, the major problem they're facing isn't quitting. The major thing they're having trouble with is a lack of B vitamin. Vitamin B covers the nerve endings and helps the system to stay calm. But when we smoke, they don't have that. So the nerve endings are raw, and so that makes people more tense or edgy or eat more. We found before a person quits smoking, if they take B vitamins for a while, it recoats the nervous system, and it's so much easier to quit smoking. They're not so impulsive. They don't want to eat so much. And the people say, "Wow." They never would have even thought that their problem isn't quitting smoking. There's other things that are playing a role in the body. Then I said, that's not all. A lot of people, when they quit smoking on New Year's Day, and they really mean it this time, but 2 days later, if you put black pepper on your food, it will entice you to want to start smoking again. And so does the ketchup, and so does the vinegar, and so does the coffee. These are all stimulants that beg for another cigarette. And the people said, "Boy, I never knew that," because they know if they're smoking, they char the taste buds. And so they end up having to eat more spicier to get some taste out of the food. It's like when you have a cold, you seem to eat more spicy just to be able to taste. And so therefore, when I explain that to them, they start seeing the common sense of why they have such habits. Another thing that really helps, if you rub the skin with cold water till the skin turns pink, it's called cold mitten friction. It helps to take the toxins and the nicotine out of the skin pores faster. It really speeds up cleaning up the nicotine with just 10 times faster. So therefore, after 5 days, by using these natural treatments, your body doesn't crave cigarettes like it used to. And so therefore, we don't teach you to quit smoking. We just teach you to be healthy just for 5 days. You're going to be healthy even if it kills you. Well, at least you'll die healthy. And so the people, they're following, they're listening, and they get really intrigued with that. When they see that we are doing something that makes sense over this simple little thing, I've got them really respecting what I present. But now we've done something a lot more in earnest and much more in depth. Health doesn't just come if we quit smoking, but how we take care of this machine. And then I will take out the herb books and the food books and then other stuff as I move on. So this is one of the antidotes. This is probably my greatest door opener. And it gives me a lot of confidence to go to almost any door. If they smoke, they'll be intrigued. If they don't smoke, they'll be intrigued. It's just a winner. It's a win-win situation. And that's what you got to develop when you get first to the door. Once you've won their confidence on a minor point, you have gotten your foot in on a greater point, and they're giving you access.
Before you go to the next question, you mentioned cold water on the skin. How does that compare with, I think the original 5-day plan called for liquids. They went on a juice fast. How
Yes.
does that compare with the other?
It doesn't contradict each other. I don't mention that all the time. I do mention when they ask me more details on how to on those 5 days. I say, well, the first day we put you just on fruit because fruit purifies the blood and vegetables strengthen your blood. So the first day you go on a fruit fast, it'll actually take the toxins and the nicotine out of your bloodstream, while the water will take the toxins and the nicotine out of your skin pores. The fruit will take it out of your digestive system and in your blood. Okay. And the water will take it out of your digestive system. And so, I sometimes elaborate more than I tell them, you got to get off the sugars for those 5 days. You got us. The greatest exercise you could do is this when you get away from the table, and just push yourself back and all that stuff. I go to more detail in the 5-day plan, and I've had a bit of trouble when they did the improved on the stop smoking thing, and it's not that it became word per word that you had to say, and it just is not my cup of tea to just be repeating somebody else's impressions in a technical way. And so the 5-day stop smoking plan, to me, the simplicity of it could just be done much more on a normal parlay. You speak the way you normally speak and present it the way you normally talk. And I seem to have found better success using that simplicity instead of all the complex 8-day plan that they eventually made. But nevertheless, different topic. Dealing with health, one fella today asked me, because we were showing our books to this 3 people. And they were so all big eyes, and they just were so intrigued and so interested. They just couldn't get enough of what we were sharing. And he lived upstairs, and so he came right through between us as we were chatting and went up to his apartment. And when he came back down, he seen that they were still all full of questions, and he just went by and did his work, mechanic in the yard. So when we finished with these 3 people, amazing experience, we walked by, and I seen him doing work on a car, so I went up to him. I says, all right, whatever, your turn, or whatever. And he says, well, what is it about? Because he saw that if the neighbors were that interested, he must have been pretty intriguing. So I started sharing that we have material that helps people learn to get their health stronger again. Now, he says, do you have anything on diabetes? And so I shared with him a simple principle that I had learned from Dr. Sang Lee, actually. And I designed a single cell. I say we all come from a single cell. And when it comes to diabetes, our cells have little doors around them. Let's say about 100 doors for one cell. And when the blood passes by there, the sugar in your blood, the doors open and the cell feeds off of this sugar to give it strength and to keep it healthy. But if 40% of the doors don't work anymore, you wouldn't even know that you're headed towards diabetes. Even if 60% of the doors don't work anymore, you still wouldn't even have a clue. And when 80% of the doors don't work anymore, then the doctor says, your blood's getting kind of rich. I think you're coming on with something here. You might be getting on diabetes. But it is not until 80% of the doors don't work anymore that your body starts to get desperate. And so what the doctors have found with diabetes is beside all the doors, there's a little button called a receptor gene. And for a while, they thought the doors don't work. Now 80% of the doors aren't working. Why not? Then when they noticed that little button, they says, when the insulin tickles that thing, the doors start opening again. So actually the doors do work. Maybe it's the electrical current of the button that's not working. It's a little bit like you come to an elevator, you press the button, it opens the door, you walk in. Same principle. And so they thought, well, Probably the body is not supplying enough insulin. So they started pumping insulin into these people. People can almost live a natural life with diabetes, having this manual supply of insulin. The only thing is that it isn't natural. It's manual labor, right? And the problem with it is that your pancreas starts getting weak and lazy of producing its own insulin because it has such a free supply coming in from another source. So the doctors might consider that the pancreas is actually weak, but it's only weakening because of its lack of being needed anymore. And that's crippling the person, right, to a certain degree. Well, what they also found is that inside of the cell, there is a receptor gene. Now, genes are a little bit like a telephone cord. They are this way here. And every hook in a gene is called a DNA. If you don't know what that is, you can ask O.J. Simpson. He'll explain it to you. But what they're finding with genes is that you could, when they get a lot of attention or love, they dance. They start wiggling. And it develops growth hormone. You start getting healthier and healthier when you feel like you have a reason to live, right? But they also found that the receptor gene inside the cells of a person who's diabetic is not open this way and dancing. It is actually all gummed up and depressed. It's going through a depression. Why? Well, nobody loves him. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking to go in front of the mirror in the bathroom after you've finished making yourself as cute as you can and say, I love you, I love you, I really love you, you know, I really love you. You're my favorite. And you know what he's going to say? Get out of here, you joker. You don't mean it. You don't even know what you're talking about. You don't love me worth 2 cents. Right? You cannot, by words, convince him that right now you've just finally decided to start caring. Okay. How in the heavens are you going to get him to get out of his depression so that he'll start touching the buttons and stimulating the doors start open again like he used to do before when everything worked well? Well, it's a little bit like, you know, if you have a puppy dog, I just go, what happens to the puppy dog when I call him? Well, first thing you'll notice, he loses control of his tail. Now, he didn't practice that, by the way. It happened to him right from birth. Whenever somebody gave attention, his tail would go. Or you give him a little bit of milk to a baby goat, and you see that little tail go, man, 100 miles an hour, right? Why? Because when they feel love, the DNA starts dancing, and it makes growth hormones, and they have a reason to live, right? We're all the same. A little bit also like grandma. Grandma's been very busy all her life, very helpful. Everybody loved her. She was the center of attention for quite a long time. And after a while, she got too old to do her usual task, and she got that weak. And so now nobody gives her attention, and nobody even notices her anymore. And now she has no attention, hardly gets to see the children. They moved away. And so she goes into what we call a depression, right? And her DNA stop dancing because she has nobody needs her no more. And so as they stop dancing, they start curling up and going into a depression. And within 5 years, grandma's gone, right? It's because of not loving her. Well, you might say, we've always loved grandma. Yeah, but to say you love somebody and to let them know how much you still need them makes a big difference. Now, if you call grandma, says grandma, the whole family's getting together and you're the only one who knows how to make mashed potatoes. I mean, nobody's even going to come if you don't make it. You're the only one who knows what she's doing. Needed? And as soon as she knows she's needed and she's going to show something off or whatever she can do that's better than anybody else, it tickles her growth hormones and her genes start dancing and she gets young again. Right? And so we're all made the same. And it's the same principle. Now, how are you going to get this one out of depression so that he'll start opening the doors again? Well, you can't just by going in front of the mirror and start saying, I love you, I love you. But when you do exercise, you're causing every cell of your body to be desperately praying for its essential need. Your body starts praying for oxygen, starts praying for air, starts praying for water, starts praying for nutrients, starts praying for rest. Desperate help, man, this guy's gone nuts. He's exercising to beat the man. Right? Well, when you exercise that much, the cells, in desperation for all these needs, begging to fulfill all the cravings, speaks to this depressed dude here and say, hey, snap out of it, man. Start opening the doors. We're starving to death. You're the only one. That's actually your job. Snap out of it. We need you. We need you so badly, man. Don't just sit there. And you know what he says? You didn't need me yesterday. All you did was watch television after supper. Yeah, but he's not doing that no more, man. He's sweating it out. We need you badly. Wake up. And so they are communicating. The rest of the cells are communicating to him, to this gene, to snap out of it because he's so desperately needed. And in turn, he will start springing himself back out because he's needed so badly. And he starts dancing. And when he does that, it stimulates the buttons on the side of the doors. The doors start opening like they used to. And the diabetes gets reversed. Simply because you have awakened within the body the things that it was really needing. One lady we had visited today, I mentioned to her as she was not only about the smoking, but then we talked a little bit about how to lose weight. And she was like, wow. And one thing I explained to her is that when it's not good to eat between meals, and she was saying her stomach is always so upset and so gurgly and so, not well and heartburn and all that stuff. And I explained to her that my stomach never talks to me, never is upset, always appreciates when it's time to eat, but never gets to eat unless it's time. And when I explained to her that I never get these problems, only because I learned how to use the stomach. When a person eats, if they eat a large breakfast, and let the food go through a process of digestion, which is something like a 4 to 5 hour process. From the smelling of the food to the saliva building up to the ingestion of the food to going into the blood and then assimilating in the system. It's a 5 hour process, but it's like an old tractor. If 2 hours later, after you've had a big meal, you decide to eat something else, the food does not continue the 5 hour process. It stops and starts the process right back to the food that you've just eaten now. And so it starts with the saliva and everything else. So the food that has stopped waiting for the 2 hour catch up of the other food ferments and turns to heartburn and turns to the improper digestion, and the amino acids ferment. And so the person's turns to fat because nobody's burning it off. And so a lot of these problems come because people are misusing the stomach. It's not good to eat between meals. Not even juices or even milk because they have nutrients in them. The best things is just water or maybe mint tea or herb tea like chamomile, which does not start the stomach working again. And so to have a large breakfast, don't eat between meals. Have a large lunch and don't eat between meals. And maybe if you're losing weight, don't eat again till the next 16 hours, till the next breakfast, where you're going to break your fast. That's what breakfast means. And at nighttime when you go to bed, because after 5 hours the body has gotten rid of that food in the stomach, so by 6 o'clock at night you have nothing in your tummy. And so you're still burning energy for another 4 or 5 hours and going to bed. And all those hours with nothing in your stomach, your body's going to have to burn it off somewhere. You're going to have to get some somewhere. And it gets the energy from the stored fat from the past years. And a person starts melting away. And my sister has just lost nearly 100 pounds in the past year and a half doing this, just following this simple principle. I had lost 57 pounds in 8 months. It was 30 years ago. Just using this simple principle. So there is a way to reduce our problems. See, the more a person is focused on their problem, the more they become a problem. The more they're focused on quitting smoking, the more they smoke. But the more they're focused on a solution, the more they become a solution. We don't teach you to stop smoking. We just teach you to be healthy for 5 days. We don't teach you to lose weight. We just teach you to be healthy for 5 days. Use the stomach the right way. And then your body will rebalance itself. What I did there is that with the headaches, this one fellow got a lot of headaches, and I first asked him, what could it be that brings it on? He says, well, I've been in a lot of sports and a lot of injuries, and so he says, and you could see by his muscles at his neck that he was a very tense person. And so I figured that the best thing is to try and calm down the tension, but I mentioned to them first, with headaches normally, if you put your feet in the hot water as hot as you can handle, you don't cook yourself. You don't throw a bit of celery and onions in there and start stirring the pot while it boils. But as hot as you can handle, and then for 5 minutes, and then ice cube cold for 30 seconds. It draws the blood away from the brain down to the feet, and then by putting them in cold water, brings the blood back up again and adds more oxygen flow to the brain, takes away the tension and the blood congestion in the brain. But with migraines, another thing we found that also helps very well, you get the charcoal powder or charcoal from wood, from an old campfire, break it into a powder, mix it with a bit of flaxseed, take the flaxseed, grind it in a coffee grinder, mix it half and half with the charcoal and the flaxseed, add a bit of water, boil it a little bit, makes a paste like a mustard plaster, but this is a charcoal plaster. And then you apply that charcoal plaster where in the back of the head or wherever you have the migraine, and then a bit of a plastic bag and a warm sock, and it will absorb the migraine. It'll really help for migraine headache. And so sometimes using these simple things have a lot of merit also. And so, you know, the other thing I say to them dealing with migraine headaches or any headache is the major thing that brings on these headaches, these tensions, is usually the stress they're under. And so they would probably need to manage their stress, reducing the amount of pressure they get under. And the best natural remedy to get rid of this stress is to just live one day at a time. If they're living a whole bunch of days at a time, they're worrying about the future, they're worrying about all the negative stuff going on in the world, and they get more tense and more stressed and more, they don't feel it except physically their body's reacting. And so that's the major thing. You know, it takes 21 positives to get rid of one negative in the brain, and people feed themselves on the news these nights. You know, it's all this negative, intimidating stuff. And so if you're always filling your brain with all these threats, your adrenaline leaks all the time and makes people more tense, and it gets all these pressures. So the principle is just to teach them that the body reacts to the way you live, you see. And so that would be what I would do for headaches somewhat. The other day I was visiting a home, and it was a warden for the jails. Both him and his wife were wardens, and he told me that they really didn't want to have children, and it took them a long time before they had this one little girl, sweetest little girl. She had to hug everybody she came near, but they didn't want to have children because of what they see day by day in the jails. So finally they did get this child, but they were very, very anxious how to be cautious with her. And they were. They are having her in a Christian school and all that stuff, private school, but still, nonetheless. And I shared with him this story. Once upon a time, there was this little boy in jail already, and a young man, and he was in there for quite a long while yet. And so his father, once in a while, would come on up and visit him. And so they could have a good hour together, and so they were allowed to go, and they would walk in the court, out in the courtyard. And as they were walking, they chat about all sorts of topics. And one time the little boy said to his dad, "You see out there at the end of the fence?" He says, "All these tall, straight trees." And he says, "But you see at the end of all the trees, there's two short, crooked, stunted ones." He says, "I just can't. I walk here every day and I just can't figure out how come all the other ones made it so good and the last two just messed up so bad." Well, the father looked at the scenario, and he looked at it. He's looking at those two trees and the rest, and he says, "I think I've got it figured out." The son said, "What, Dad?" He says, "Well, when they put these trees in, the ones responsible to put them in, put fertilizers around the trees, watered them well, and they put these tutors, these two sticks to make sure the tree stays straight as it grows up in their tender years." He says, "But at the end of the week or the month or the week when they finished, or the day finished before they got to do the last two trees. So they didn't have a chance to put the fertilizer and to put these sticks to hold them straight. I guess they were supposed to come back next week to finish the job, but probably were given a different task and never finished. They neglected to do the last two trees. And that's why those two are stunted and all crooked." And the little boy looked at his dad. He says, "Dad, I wouldn't be here either if you would have done the same." You know, the reason why we made our books was to meet those tutors. For mom and dad to put something to keep the tender little hearts straight before they have a real thick bark around their hearts. And these books have been professionally designed to keep children from going crooked, to fertilize them well, and to keep them growing in the right way. And so that's why people are really, really enjoying these books. Because if you don't give them that support and that guidance in a world today that has gone all crooked, trees and all, you can rest assured that you're you reap what you sow, or you neglect to sow, right? And so that's why people really, really appreciate these books here. Come on.
Besides the books that we're selling, is there any other good sources of information for the kinds of things that you use in your talks?
Well, there's so much out there now. I mean, you can get an amazing amount. The thing that I'm trying to convey to the people with the worth of our literature is that we're not just there to tell them this will help you for this problem. But we try to get more into, if you change this and reform your lifestyle or health habits this way, you will not have these problems always on. So it's one thing to change a health problem. It's better to teach people how to change their habits that constantly bring their problem on. And so the holistic approach is really the best approach for anything. You never see a rabbit sitting in a doctor's office waiting his turn. And people today are just a hair away from death. And it's only because they don't change some of the things that bring on. Like this lady that was doing with the weight and the smoking a while ago. She had these bottles of pop this size. You know, 1 can of pop, 18 teaspoons of sugar. You know. Can you imagine? And she's sucking twice the amount, you know. And so they don't change the things that bring on their problem. And that's why we're there to educate people to change their lifestyle and not just to give them a magic herb or pill or vitamin. Live healthier. No one can improve on living healthy. Most people, they don't know they're living unhealthy. And that's why we have our literature to re-educate them. See, the more a person is focused on their problem, the more they become a problem. The more they're focused on quitting smoking, the more they smoke. But the more they're focused on a solution, the more they become a solution. We don't teach you to stop smoking. We just teach you to be healthy for 5 days. We don't teach you to lose weight. We just teach you to be healthy for 5 days. Use the stomach the right way. And then your body will rebalance itself.